Hi, and welcome to Odoo Experience, a presentation by Business Solutions on how you can prevent user errors using machine learning in your Odoo system. I'm Faisal Basar. I am the CTO of Business Solutions. We are a gold partners of Odoo based out of California. We work with customers all over US and Canada. Today, we're going to talk about some common user mistakes which users do with Odoo system. And we are focusing mostly on inventory mistakes and errors. And as you see, some surveys have found that 34% of businesses have delayed shipping because they don't have the right products in the order. The cost of entire inventory management worldwide is $385 billion. It's a huge number, and any errors and mistake, even a small percentage of that turns out to be a very large number. So some of the common mistakes which we see having implemented ERP systems for our customers is either most common is the human data entry errors. So this is when someone is typing something and made a mistake in entering the data. It's very difficult to catch those errors, and downstream it leads to a lot of different errors in the system. There are also tagging errors. Users have either not tagged the products properly with their barcodes, or in scanning, they might be making some errors and mistakes, which causes problems. Most commonly, it is an issue with familiarity of the system. So users are new to the system. Either you have a new employee who is joining in, or you just rolled out a new instance of Odoo for users. So they're not familiar, they're trying to find their way around, and they might make these mistakes, which can be really costly. And from the perspective of an implementation company, it can also lead to wrong perception about the product. So it's very important to prevent these users from making mistakes. A little bit deeper of what type of inventory mistakes people end up doing is miscounting of physical inventory, assigning the wrong cost to the inventory. So someone is probably responsible for putting in cost. If, say, you're using standard costing in your company, someone has to manually go in and put those costs, so they do it wrongly. You identify in inventory items. When you're doing inventory transactions, now it depends on whether you've enabled barcoding or not, and how you're using barcoding. You might actually manually enter something in the transaction, right? It could either be selecting a product or a quantity for a move, and these are the major problems which is there. So we just the system will take users' quantity on face value, assuming the user is entering the right data. We've seen issues with consignment inventory, and the most common, which all of you might have faced, is in inventory counts, cycle counts, and inventory counts. Those are areas where it's a lot of potential for doing mistakes during the inventory count process. So we've developed a machine learning module which helps prevent these mistakes. How does it work? It essentially understands the data in your system. It understands the patterns of your transactions, and it tries to find if you do the next transaction, whether it is in line with your pattern or not. So whether it is the term we use, whether it's anomalous or not. And this is similar. To understand this, it's important to understand how the banks track your credit card transactions. So how do they flag if this is a suspicious transaction? They use numerous different signals and transaction history to find out if a transaction is anomalous. So you might have seen, like I use Bank of America when I travel. Sometimes I get an alert, hey, you're doing this, you're trying to do this transaction. Is this you? Say yes or no, right? So they essentially, at the heart of it, it's basically an anomaly detection system, right? It learns patterns, different signals, different users, and all that, and it tries to detect uh, anomalies in your data. And that's how this module works. And it helps to prevent users from making mistakes in the system. And we looked in the demo of how it actually works. The way we implemented it is it learns. Now, for machine learning to work, it needs data, right? So it needs some data for it to train on, so then it can later on use that information to detect or predict whatever you want to do with the new data which comes in. So it learns based on your transactions, and it understands patterns of the data. It will then alert you if there is any error in the system. So what are the advantages? Of course, it prevents users from making mistakes. It can be a useful user training tool. So basically, if you have a new employee who's working in the inventory department, he's trying to do a transaction which is incorrect, this tool will detect and flag it, which you will see in a demo. And the great thing about it works in real time. So it doesn't work as you do transactions. It is monitoring your transactions and looks at it if it is correct or not. And it will give you a warning, hey, this looks incorrect. Do you want to let it go? So if there is no issues, it will just flow. It will work in the background without you even noticing there's something monitoring the transactions and seeing if it is within your established pattern or norm of doing things. But if it detects, it will come up. So it's like someone watching over shoulder and tapping you when you make a mistake and letting you go when you don't. And it learns from your transactions. It's not just you train it once and you're done, but it is as you do transactions, it will learn. So as your business evolves, right? So maybe you would be normally ordering in hundreds, quantities of 100, a certain product. Now your business has evolved and you probably started ordering 150 or 200. So in the range, right? So it doesn't work with quantity. It is smart enough to work with ranges. So it will know that you do transactions between 50 to 100 quantities for this particular product or this category of product from this vendor, right? So it uses a lot of signals and a lot of data to identify. Now, if suddenly you ordered 250, it will give you a warning. But now you say, yes, no, this is good, let it go through. My business has changed and I've started ordering more. I've got more customers, orders to fulfill. So this system will then learn. Now, as it gets the new data, it will now know that, hey, your pattern or range is between 200 to 300 from this vendor or for this product or for this category of products. It's machine learning, so it essentially understands the patterns by itself. You don't have to feed in rules. It learns the rules by itself, right? So that is the good thing about this thing. And how did we get to this? Sorry, I just skipped some slides. So just talking about a case study here. So this is with one of our customers where we implemented Odoo. They were really happy. And as they started using Odoo, it was working perfectly for them. What they noticed is they had multiple locations and they had some users in remote locations which were not properly trained, and they were making errors when they were doing these transactions. That was causing a lot of problems downstream. They were a manufacturing company. So when they had to do a transaction, a transfer, they would make a mistake, and then the entire lot would be incorrect and so on. They made mistakes in shelving the products, and they were making barcode tagging errors. So we implemented this system for them, and they really liked it. They got better visibility from using this system. They avoid human errors. They got a robust inventory management system. So overall, it really helped solve this problem for them. So now let's walk through a demo of how this module works. So I'll stop sharing my screen, and you can see the Chrome browser. Okay, so in here, let's see the settings. So this module has been installed. It's a module within Odoo. This is a very good thing. So it's inbuilt in Odoo. It's not a separate service which you need to use. The reason is we wanted this to be really, really fast and work real time as you do transactions. So these are some of the settings which is worth talking about so that you will understand how this works. So first of all, you can actually just enable and disable anomaly detection. So it could be that this is a new Odoo system, and you don't want to have anomaly detection. You could just come here and disable this anomaly detection. You can select for which transactions you want to have anomaly detection. So whether you want to have for receiving or internal transfers, and this could be also manufacturing, which I will show you, or it could just be, we've put this thing for inventory loss because it can happen that sometimes when you're doing inventory count, or maybe it's the first time you're updating your inventory. So Odoo does the double entry for stock moves. So it takes from your inventory loss and updates your stock location. So you might want to disable it at that time so that it doesn't flag these inventories. Some of the defaults, you can just continue to use it, but if you want, you can tinker with it. So this is the minimum number of transactions before which this module will kick in and start monitoring. Until then, it just keeps learning. And then this is just a maximum. So we put a maximum just in case you have, like, you reach a point of millions of transactions. You don't want to, this will start taking more time. So you would want to limit to certain maximum transactions to use for training. So these are the settings. Now, what I'm going to do is go and show you from the vendor, like when I am purchasing inventory, how this looks. And as I told you, this can work for all inventory transactions, and you can decide to enable it. So for inventory internal moves or fulfilling your manufacturing operations and other cases. So here I'm going to create an order from a vendor, and I will say I want to buy some oil, and I will say the quantity is 5, and I will buy another product in the same one, and I wanted to show you a multi-line order so that to show you how it works at individual level, product level. So I'm going to just save and confirm this order. So now, before I receive this, I just wanted to show you the past transactions. So I've done some 5 transactions. Well, these are the ones which are actually the correct ones. So generally, I buy, this is something which is used in a manufacturer. This is the raw material which is used in the manufacturing process. So what I will do is I will go and receive my products. So here I'm in receiving now. I've set it up as taking serial number. So assume I'm scanning this raw data, and I'm just manually putting in, but you can assume that you might be scanning it or creating it manually. Say that I'm receiving all of this, and I will validate this incoming shipping. So now you see that it actually says it came up with a warning that this is an anomalous transaction. So based on the pattern of what I have been buying, I'm trying to receive this. And since we did it at an inventory level, it does it at during receiving. We have another module which actually works on vendor invoices, which tracks your payments and sees that there is no you're paying within the pattern and there's no anomaly in that step. But this is basically working on the stock level. So you would see at each, it will show which line item actually has an anomaly. Right now, both of them are anomalous, and that's why it's showing it. Now, what I can do is I can say, hey, accept this this transaction as a valid transaction, right? And I can continue and process this. If that happens, then it starts using this data and starts internally adjusting its parameters based on which it will flag anomalous transactions. So you are kind of training the system also on the fly if you accept this. Now, if you go to the inventory, I will not accept it now. I could have accepted it, but I wanted to show you, you can actually go here and look at all the transactions which are actually anomalous. So if you see, it shows me which receiving, and it's probably this one. There's something in the manufacturing order also, but these are the ones which are anomalous transactions. You can go into it, look at which user did it. So then you know that this is a training issue for that particular user. But this basically lists all your anomalous transactions. I wanted to go and show you in manufacturing. I will not do the transaction, but I will show you a couple of manufacturing orders. So here is something which I am making. I generally use 380 of this oil and 170 of the other oil to make this flavored candy or whatever it might be. Now, in specifically for this customer, it varies because the content can change and they have to go and edit the quantities they consume. So they might be making 1 unit, but they might end up using 350, which might be okay. Or they might use 400 because of the way their process is. But if you see one of the earlier transactions, this is where the user went and tried to use 300 and 150, and the user flagged it as an anomalous transaction, that this is an anomaly. So you could just accept it and say, yes, this is okay, I know, and move forward. So all in all, this works in the background. If everything is okay, you don't see anything, you use the system as it is. If there is an anomaly, the system will flag it. You have the option of bypassing it. And as you use it, it learns your patterns and adapts to your business. And also gives you a report so that you can identify if there was a transaction, which user did it, when was it done, and then probably look at maybe there is a training issue with that particular user and how you want to handle it. So that's all, and thank you for watching this. We can now take more questions.
Hi Faisal, thank you for this very interesting talk. We'll go now to the Q&A live session, and we have questions here from the live chat. So first, the question is, does it adjust for each user actually?
That's actually a very good question, and we kind of touched based on the point that this can be a tool for training users, right? So when it comes to inventory, we've kept it such that it is across inventory transactions and not specific to each user. But I also touched on another module which is for accounting, where we can train it per user. But for inventory, I think the anomaly detection should be system wide based on transactions and not specific to any user. But if there is a requirement which someone might have, we can tweak it to be per user. But right now, it is across all transactions and not specific to any particular user.
Okay, thank you for this answer. Then I have another question. So is it an additional module you have to pay for, or is it included already in certain modules?
So it is an additional module. And since it is machine learning, there is a process to set it up. So if you are interested, just reach out to us. We'll share our email address, and we can help you set it up for you. But it is a standalone module in itself. You don't have to purchase anything else, but it needs to be set up.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Then what are the recommended number of minimum and maximum transactions to train the models?
Okay. Again, a very good and very specific and relevant question. We recommend at least 5 transactions uh, before it kicks in. So we obviously made it a configurable parameter. It needs at least 5 to give you any level of confidence. And you see in the demo, it returns a confidence score. It is based on how confident the model is that it's an anomaly. Maximum, there's no upper limit to a maximum. The more the data, the better it is for the model. But since this is done in real time, we have kept an upper limit of 50. You can go up to 100 or 500 based on your transactions. But if you say you make it 10,000 or not 10, maybe make it 100,000, it will slow down in real time, right? So ideally, you would keep it like at 1,000 maximum.
Okay, thank you for your answer. We have another question coming. So since the data is coming in batches, how do you achieve the desired precision throughout the learning?
Okay, so again, they're very, very good questions coming from the audience. So as we say, so we don't, this is not a model. Some models, machine learning models are just trained on a certain set of data and you just reuse them. This one learns as you get more data. So as you have more transactions, we take the newer transactions into account and we use that data, right? So maybe if the pattern of your transaction changes, if maybe your business slowly ramps up on a certain line of products and you make more moves for those components, it will learn from the data, right? So as soon as there is something it flags and you say, hey, this is a normal transaction, it will start taking that data into account before flagging future transactions. So it is really real time and it learns on the fly as you have more transactions, and it also takes the uh, time scale into account. So the newer transactions get more weightage as compared to the past transactions. So that's how it works. So it just learns as it goes.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. We have a question with regards to the first question, I think. And the person says, so if it's not per user, then there is a security issue because this can leak information about other users. So did you think about this aspect?
So it's actually not an issue because this is Odoo, right? So this is within the Odoo system as your internal users are transacting. So if you are flagging something, right, you would want to know which user is making these mistakes, and the purpose is to identify training opportunities. And we've had this specific issue with one of our customers where one person in a remote warehouse was always making the mistakes, right? So it is actually helpful to identify which user is making the mistakes often, so you can look at it and have some sort of intervention. So there's no security issue because it's all within your Odoo ERP. The data is not exposed to any of your customers or anyone outside. And we can set rules of who can see the report, right? So when you see the report of these are the anomalous transactions and these are the users, it can be limited to the users who have the right authority to view it. So it will not be visible to everyone. Maybe just the manager or the administrator sees that data.
Okay, well, thank you very much for this answer. So we don't have more time to tackle the rest of the questions, but we will host an extended Q&A session. You can find the link down below in the live chat, so Faisal will be able to answer the other questions about the barcodes, source code of the modules, etc. Thank you.
Thank you.